So thank you very much. We're going to be talking about advertising on connected TV over the next little while. Welcome back, Francesco. Francesco Barbarani, if I'm saying that right, of RIE is here on the panel. Alexa Radnich, who is product manager with United Cloud. Julian Savage-Lee, who is the Commercial Director Advertising at Vida, and Oliver Knappman, I can't quite see that, his title at the end, so I'm going to look here, Chief Advertising Officer and Chief Climate Officer of Zatu. I kind of want to explore that too. It's the wrong panel, unfortunately. Briefly, your climate goal, what do you do?
So that's a good question, and so someone else in the panel has asked me why I'm also responsible for our climate. So we want to be, or we are a climate neutral company, and so we drive this mostly out of our employees, and to give them the person within the management team, because we want to support this best. There is for 3 years the responsibility in being a climate responsible officer in the management team is changing, and now it's my part that I'm running that. And we are doing great stuff, so may I could explain one of our projects that is also coming out from our employees was we have brought most of our data centers, because streaming needs a lot of energy to run that service, and so we have put our streaming and hosting service and caching service into windmills. So we put them out of traditional data centers in big cities like Frankfurt and Zurich and Paris, and we are now running on green energy, mostly 80% of our data centers, and that could be also something that everybody of you could inspire you to also follow that path, be responsible for our environment, because we only have one. Thanks.
Thank you. It's a very interesting area which a lot of companies are thinking about. I talk TV. So maybe start off with, Oliver, you can tell me about the current service from Zatu. I think the model has changed a little bit over the years. So what's the proposition?
Yes, so now talking about CTVs, closing a circle. So for us, because when we started our service, it was a classical B2C service, and our vision was we want to free TV from broadcast restrictions, and that was also possible because we have brought linear TV on devices where TV wasn't possible availability before, like on web and mobile. And now, for the last 5 years, we are coming back to the connected TV, because now the big screen in the living room is also connected to the internet, and that's closing our circle right now. So we are bringing back our service to that device, and we are doing this not only for our B2C offering so far, we have also a big B2B offering, and we are partnering with a lot of, so we have more than, I think, 3,000 TV channels that are running on our platform. So we have Europe channels on our platform, we are partnering with Vida, so we are doing a lot of stuff in that industry so far, and so we're providing the service in Europe. We have had also a footprint in the US, but that doesn't went well, so we got back to Europe and make things better in that region.
Okay, thank you. Alexa, I guess like Oliver here, you're running services in a number of territories. What can the consumer tune into?
Hello. So basically I'm part of United Cloud, which is part of United Group, which at the moment is present in 8 countries in southeastern Europe. So basically, we do have some partnerships with the two as well, and the thing is, some of the channels from all those markets, what is extremely important is that there's a huge complexity on each of the specific markets. Our biggest market at the moment is Greece, followed by Bulgaria, then Croatia and Serbia, as well as Slovenia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Montenegro. I revised this a couple of times in order to not mistake it. From that perspective, the thing is that we basically have a unified solution, a product which was developed by United Cloud, which is called Eon TV. So it's an OTT platform, basically, which hosts all the linear TV channels for all these markets that we've covered. And also we have a VOD incorporated in the same app, as well as radio stations and catch up, which is which has a huge impact in some of the markets where we are present. So obviously the logical step in advancement 4 years ago was how to continue that, especially our really close connections.
This is running side by side with, I guess, in some markets, not necessarily all of the ones you mentioned, with a traditional platform-based service?
Yeah, so basically, to cut a long story short, so InTV is the most used OTT platform, which is basically like you're having your cable TV as well as an OTT platform, like a normal app. So basically you have both things in the same app, so we cover all types of devices, meaning that we have from set-top boxes, from the legacy ones, to the OLED ones as well. All of them are running the same one, as well as our iOS app, and like mobile phones, and obviously smart TV apps as well. Like Hisense is like really strong, especially in our markets as well. So we have a huge penetration there as well. So basically from all of that, we ended up having a solution which is our adjustable TV solution, and that is the final thought that I'm going to say here. What's interesting, that solution has a name very similar to ones where Julian works, which is Vida, but with one A. Yeah, they came out first with theirs, just to clarify it. And that one is considering basically we're doing dynamic ad insertions in live TV. We're exchanging the ad blocks and serving basically targeted advertising. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, Francesco, we touched on this earlier, obviously you were with us on the earlier panel, but just to remind any latecomers as to the write-off on this side of the business.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. And just to briefly recap my role, I drive all the digital commercial activity on Right Digital. This is the sales structure of Right Italy, the public company, the leader on TV audience. I'm working on the strategy for linear channel, digital channel, connected TV channel, and try to involve all our sales guys to move on the market and educate the client. Also, sometimes I educate us, but to find the best way to bring our premium content, quality content. It's more talking a lot about quality content, and with our new strategy on digital data platform and the profile, user cluster, and so on, find the best way to mesh up the premium content and the target advertiser on the platform.
And Julian, a little bit different view, of course, coming from the world of an operating system. And actually, if you think back, I think about when I first started writing about all this kind of stuff, it's a completely different set of players in the operating system market as it was then. I guess maybe some Media's predecessors were around. But from your perspective, what makes it more interesting from your side is that you belong to a TV manufacturer, but actually now spreading out into the world, as it were.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, Julian. And Vida's still fairly young as a company, less than 6 years old, and Hisense, as our parent today, saw an opportunity, as I understand it, from getting factories sometimes to sublet work out to, and what actually happened there is they then realised that if they created this operating system that's going to be able to be universally used by factories when they need software added to hardware when somebody comes in for an order. You know, when retailers make an order in every single country, they will need software with their television hardware today, where they might not need it if it's a hi-fi. So Vida's opportunity only works if you then have the global offering for the consumer. So we talk about global apps, Prime, Disney Plus, Netflix, and then local, such as these three wonderful players across Europe who sit on the stage.
So you're providing the operating system, and then you're actually providing something to use the operating system with.
For sure, because you know, if we're being very honest about it, when you find yourself in that moment and you've looked at buying a piece of hardware, you're going to need to make sure the software does the things you need to do. So in a television, that usually is at the point of sale where you're looking at different devices. Maybe you've done some research into the spec and the chip and the, you know, whether it's LED or OLED. But the reality is that for many consumers, what they will look at is, does it have the apps that I want to watch in it in my market? And if we don't have the local apps, such as these guys on stage with me, if their services are not on those devices, it's very difficult to persuade the consumer to put that device into the basket, regardless of whether it's whether it's a Hisense created device or whether it's one of the partner OEMs, of which there's 100 brands using Reader as an operating system.
You make a very good point about getting the right content. I was at a press launch, I won't mention who with, for reasons which will become apparent. And the UK British press pack, we just looked at each other and said, where's Netflix? Because this particular launch we're on, Netflix wasn't there. And you can argue one way or the other as to whether you enjoy the service, but a lot of people do. That's a big mix. And we know lots of people watching Netflix and the other services as well. I wonder, Oliver, maybe you could give us a little bit of insight actually as to who's, I guess, the amount of viewing which is actually taking place to connected platforms now.
Yeah, so we are providing an OTT service that combines web usage, mobile usage, and connected TV. And as I mentioned, it is 5 years ago now, our strategy has shifted also to start more looking into connected TV devices. And the overall consumption is now roughly at 80% combined, our B2B and our B2C business. And to be honest, it is the only section that is growing. So the other ones seem stable. So it seems like that TV consumption, even if it's linear live, it's non-live, it's AVOD, this is SVOD, it's taking place on the big screen in the living room. And that is the only area where we are growing.
Interesting. Do you think that in the last few days there's this major frequency conference which is taking place later this year, and one of the discussions is going to be whether portion of the spectrum which is often used for terrestrial television, DTT, whether or not that ends up with mobile operators. And you kind of wonder, the BBC have made statements about what they might do, and the kind of suggestions and numbers you're offering there seems to suggest that even some of the broadcasters on the Freeview DTT type spectrum don't believe that they'll be there because they'll be using services such as yours.
Yeah, but sometimes it also depends on the audience that are using our product. So to be honest, if you're looking in different audience segments like the younger ones, then the TV consumption, especially on mobile phones and tablets, is more common than on big screens. And it might be that this will change or not change, and we don't know about this fact right now. So our audience, even if we are providing our service for B2B customers, that are older linear TV consumptions users. So therefore, that might be not the right way now to make a decision if the mobile will be not also an interesting device to look into TV distribution.
I'll be saying beware the grey vote here at this point. Francesco, tell me a little bit about the Rai Play users. I think you hinted this morning that playing better with younger audiences, to Oliver's point, than the older audiences.
Yeah, if you remember that we haven't shared this morning, we have seen an unbelievable growth in terms of connected TV recently to last year. And the funny thing is that the growing is on the video views in triple digit, 2022 versus 2021, that it's great. But another very important KPI for me is the time spent on our connected TV content. That's growing 85%, 2022 to 2021. That's very important. And we have also a very, very increase in terms of time spent for each session. We arrive at 25 minutes. Consider that we calculate that for every single visit, the user watch half of a series, of an episode, of a single season, because we have an average time spent on series on television. The length of the episode is more or less an hour, and an hour and a half. So this is our estimation. Another important thing that we check it also for the advertising is that the prime time linear television is the same as the connected prime time. So that means that 47% of the total viewers on connected TV is focused on the prime time, classic prime time, from 9 till 11.
So is it following near enough the kind of graph that you might see from Ray 1, perhaps, right?
Yeah, that's it. Very important if we can return to the strategic concept that we covered this morning, talking about the complementary audience, because you imagine that you have just one big screen in the room. It's different when you talk about mobile, tablet, and small screen. So once that you have this kind of complementary audience, are really focused on the content and of course the advertising. Another important thing is that 50% of our content that views on connected TV is fiction. Premium television, classic content. And another key point, again, is when we talk about young people watch our content through connected TV, respect the linear classic screen. And another important thing is that more than 80% is depend about the television classic content, but almost 80% of the experience on connected TV is on demand, and 20% is linear. But something that we have discussed this morning still be changing. Again, depending television content when we have specific news or sports event, of course they share linear or also on connected TV. And what we have seen recently is that the new waveframe on connected TV with a lot of app, we have seen that most of users of Replay arrive through the app and are used in terms of behavior to watch also live channel through the app. So
they will do that too, because for example, when you mentioned a few moments ago that lots of people like to watch drama on the platform, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but they're a public broadcaster. I know their drama is very good, but part of the remit of the public broadcaster will of course be news.
Yeah.
So how do you get them to move from one to the other?
Consider that, of course, drama fiction is mainly on-demand content, and of course, news and sport real life. But it's changed a little bit this kind of behavior again, because once that you switch on the new television, connected TV, you have something like a digital classic home page with a few apps and so on, and the user are used to go to OTT as Netflix, Disney, to the app. Of course, they don't have any channel. And start to have this habit also on our app. For this reason, also, if they want to see the live and news information, they move to the app.
Okay.
It's not easier, maybe it's faster, move to the app instead of close the home page. And
there is the problem of, I think I gave the example at a previous conference of Amazon's tennis coverage, where to move between court to court, you virtually have to go in and out, in and out. You've got no idea as to what's happening where, and out of the choice of a dozen matches, you're never going to find the one you like.
This is a very strategic point also to save the linear classic audience, as you can imagine.
Very much so. Thank you. Alexis, tell us a little bit about what you're doing from from the media telco perspective with regards to addressable TV.
Sure. So, what I previously mentioned, the thing is that depending on the operation that we have in each of our markets, it really depends what our strategy is going to be on all of those markets. So, the most logical when we launched Vida, it was in 2019, it was most logical to start with the Serbian market, closely expanding to Slovenia later on. Why? Because there was those markets where EON TV had a huge penetration of more than half of population there. The thing was that the most watched cable channels were also part of United Group, of actually United Media. So basically, the biggest news channel on cable, the biggest entertainment channel, and the biggest bundle of sports channels were all part of United Group, meaning that there were no negotiations that you needed to do in order to onboard those broadcasters, etc. It was all...
they were available on other platforms other than your own?
No, those were only exclusively on EON at the moment. Yeah, it's an interesting, like for example, streaming is an interesting perspective because literally market divides in two. You have two platforms to distributions, and all the media outlets are either on one or the other, and then you have terrestrial TV stations which are on both. But mostly those are unfortunately owned by the other competitor basically. So basically we are mostly exclusively doing on those cable channels. So when we launched it, the thing was that our reach was like steadily growing, which was great obviously for those ones. And also what we've seen is that the users who were doing and actually using those channels and those most advanced IPTV set-top boxes and as well smart TV apps, etc., were their most advanced users, meaning that when we did some calculations and some profiling, etc., those are the most well-off people, meaning that advertisers were really interested in penetrating those users, especially like the banks, the automakers, etc. So that's why, and that's how we launched there. The second thing, what was happening is that when we launched Slovenia, it was interesting because we had a smaller amount of market there, and the thing was that some of those channels were also on the other platforms as well. And we saw there some issues with how we're going to perceive that, how advertisers are going to perceive it if they cannot reach the total audience, etc. So we had a lot of like a huge learning curve in order how to continue expanding in the other markets because of those two. So for example, now the other two which we're planning to launch addressable, which is Greece and Bulgaria, strategy is totally opposite, especially because in Bulgaria and in Greece, part of United Group, part of United Media are the biggest national TV stations, which need that whole reach. So you need to be really smart in order to have like main points how to launch it, because you at the end of the day you cannot cannibalize your own business.
Yeah, thank you. Julian, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about FIFA. FIFA Plus, which is the, as I understand it, it's kind of not available everywhere, but it wraps up some of the FIFA football competitions, I think, with some background stuff as well. I preface this with my taxi driver last night in from the airport was happily watching Champions League on his little display screen every time we stopped, which was a little bit nerve-wracking, shall we say. But you have done some good work with FIFA Plus, particularly in terms of positioning on the home screen to draw people in.
Yes. So Vida is, as we've acknowledged, a subsidiary of Hisense today, and Hisense were one of the sponsors of the FIFA World Cup 2022 Qatar. And in relation to sponsorship activation, there was a conversation between Hisense and FIFA around FIFA launching their FIFA Plus app. So FIFA have created an extension of their web experience into CTV and built a custom app for the CTV environment, which was launched first on Vida devices in the run-up to the World Cup. As this launched, it was very interesting because it didn't have any of the live games. There was only one territory where there was live games, but it did have highlights from the World Cup, which were updated every day. And it also had lots of content like El Capitan, documentaries, and the sort of full match replays of previous World Cup finals that you could watch. So there's some fantastic content brought in there by FIFA into the video ecosystem. And it was around the time when I joined back in October. So one of the things we started working out is what could we do to help publicise and help bring people into the app, considering that they're not going to be brought in for live games. They will sit with...
They'll be on the public broadcast, and certainly on the national broadcast.
Those broadcast deals are done, so far in advance as well, that you're not going to change, you're not going to inform people about where something's going to be at the very last moment, right? You'd have to have a very different strategy if you were to do that. So what we needed to do is we needed to tell people about some unique content that we created. So Hisense created a magazine show. We had some hosts on the ground in Qatar. They were talking to the fans. And it was a show really, by the fans, for the fans, with the previous day's highlights wrapped up within a 20-minute segment. It was fantastic. We used the display placements, the native display placements we have on the home screen to tell people about FIFA Plus, about the World Cup Daily Show, and as we could update the ad placements every day, we were getting images from FIFA. from the previous day's matches.
So it was being able, you were able to update the image to draw people in, I don't know, yesterday's lead goal score or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we had some help from FIFA Plus's team on the ground who were doing, images and copywriting for socials. We amended that to the limitations and the scope of our display placements. And we helped FIFA Plus get opened in 98% of the world. By the time we got to the tournament stage, people had spent more than 2 minutes in the app in every country around the world, bar 2%. We helped them increase their views dramatically when we added some video ads across some video inventory on third-party services, where we have an inventory share as a sort of an advertising group. And we really, helped FIFA to launch in conjunction with the World Cup, even though they weren't showing the World Cup in the app.
Okay. And ordinarily, presumably the rail, the area gets used for other promotions. Is it the sort of thing? I guess FIFA worked at that time in part, obviously got excellent work on it, but also the fact it was the right time. Are there, I wonder, sort of other things that you could then do other than your average or go watch this movie kind of thing, which they haven't gone, arguably, isn't it?
Yeah, there are. We've done some promotions for organisations that are not endemic to the TV recently as trials, and had QR codes for sort of delivery services, last month delivery services. Manchester United did a campaign with us to showcase some retail and fashion lines. That was kind of interesting, but I think really where the strength will be as we continue to develop in that area is really about people if you think about it logically, people have gone to turn on their TV, they press the on button or they press the home button, and now they're looking to make a choice. They're looking to find great content that's brought to them by local providers or by the global providers.
And I guess the challenge is not to interrupt their choice or make it more difficult to find. I find a number of services as I scroll down 6 or 7 rails to find out what I was last watching. You need to make sure it's seamless and part of the experience.
Yeah, because people are going into their home screen and they're at a point where they're trying to make a decision. We have buttons on the devices, and they are sold as well to sort of global and local providers.
So these are, you might say Netflix, you might say Disney Plus, very well, say United Cloud in some markets, who knows?
Exactly, it may be branded with the name of the operator. So there will be some consumers who will turn on their device by pressing that button. And when you press that button, you are making a choice at that point. I am turning on the TV to watch this service. Everybody else is going to the home screen. So the home screen now is a great place to showcase that new show, that new promotion, that new app, that new service, and to get it in front of people just like a TV guide does, and just like the TV magazines used to of old.
And Oliver, I guess this sort of service gives the abilities of connected TV, gives us the option to one promotion for one set of viewers who may be interested in FIFA Plus. Not everybody would be. You may have the demographic information to, I don't know, send them the way of Gordon Ramsay, say, I don't know.
So what's interesting is to see you are saying to integrate with the home button also display advertisement. I think Amazon does also inhale the display advertisement space on their Amazon Fire TV startup page. And it's interesting to see how others are using that space when the user starts opening his first choice TV app, so to say. And maybe that's also something that we could jump in, and also when users are coming on our, so we call it start page, where all the necessary recommendations, what are the most recent shows and things like that are mentioned, that we could also integrate some advertisement space there. But as from now, display on our platform is not a common thing on connected TVs. So we have only one ad format in place, but that's just we are trying to figure out what the impact is. It's a pause ad. So when the user is making a pause in a non-linear use case, then we are showing advertisement. That might be also something that the others will come up later on. The other advertisement that we are providing then is mostly dynamic ad insertion. So we are replacing linear TV ads with dynamically targeted video ads on behalf of our broadcasting partners. And then also doing this with fast channels. And that is something that we are doing, not with fast channels, but dynamic ad substitution. We have built an own solution to do this. And this is running for more than 6 years right now. And so to give a number, if it's allowed, so we are having the ability in Europe to reach roughly 3 million households on our platform, and we are able to provide 200 million of video inventory a month. So that's, for a small one like us, it's a huge step, but a huge amount of video inventory, but it's far away of being important in Europe, I would say.
Fantastic. Tell me, moving on and sort of taking this sort of theme of being able to target different audiences, tell me about how you're using your premium content to try and draw in clients for various commercial activities which maybe haven't been able to reach so far.
Yeah, it's a great challenge because we are very lucky, as I say, guys, because our publisher produce a lot of premium content. This is a key strategic point also for the sales structure. Once that we have with this kind of content, our job is to find the best target, identify the profile, the cluster that client requests us. As we discussed this morning, I'm convinced, as I work for an international company, that it's very important for the advertiser the other factor. So once that you put a pre-roll, a commercial before premium content for the customer, remember the product has a different kind of impact with the commercial too. Also because is approaching a specific premium content. This is the first point for us. And the second point is that once that we identify the best target for the company, it's not easy, but it's not so difficult to match this target with this kind of content. We have several research for different television content, and the link is quite easy because once you sell Connected TV, you have all the positive feedback from the big screen, better than me, and at the same time you can match all the digital plus. That means targeting, profile. Once again, it's something that advertising starting to use so much. Just to give you an idea, if we take on Q1 100 most important RAI advertiser on television, we have 83 client that plans also on digital. If we move back to 2021, the percentage was 60-62. So that means that our job will start to have positive effect as we move to the market saying, we have the safe premium content and we have your target. So once that we match this most important pillar, it's quite easy for you.
Sorry to ask the question this way around, but the advertisers you haven't moved to and I know obviously you've got most of them, you've got 83 out of your top 100, but the other 17, what are they telling you? Why are they saying no?
Yeah, it's a good question, Julian, because what we are analyzing is also the different sector, because it's quite funny, because you have a different client move in a different way on a different sector, but at the same time you have the same sector, different client that move in a different way.
Okay.
It's, we have, of course, most television client that this year start to invest a lot also on digital side. But the answer is that sometimes they want to be more focused on big television audience. They are not ready to do that. Maybe these 70 clients that at the moment we don't have were clients in the previous year and now changed a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that's entirely reasonable.
Yes, but it's quite interesting because now the challenge is that once we have same client television and digital, the challenge with this kind of client is to have the same campaign number on the monthly base on digital. As we have a big client, as maybe food, that has a huge number of monthly campaign on television, but they don't have the same number of campaign on digital. They have lower number of campaign on digital.
And their reasoning for that is they're saying, well, I'm still getting my mass market by advertising, by on a Saturday night or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. We try to target it also in the different day of the week, in the different moment of the day, to be closer to the customer when they make different kind of shopping. But again, this is the challenge. Arrive at 100% also with digital and increase the number of campaign on digital platform.
Okay, interesting.
Francesco, has it also something to do with the pricing?
The pricing is very high. We have very high pricing. Thank you for the question. Yeah. But when we launched the rate card of Connected TV, we have a big internal discussion. Consider that we wanted to put a very high positioning because we have premium content. We have a very small break in terms of advertising because we have just 2 clients on a single digital break with exclusive sector, so you don't have same food and so on. And when we finished the discussion, we decided to have a premium price in general rotation, 50 euro.
Like Netflix.
Yeah, a little bit higher in Italy. It seems, I don't know, I know just, this is the rate card is very simple because we have this price, starting price, then we have a few clients, maybe with, but small discount, believe me, very small discount, yes. But what happens when the client wants to have a target, we have a little boost in terms of percentage. So we're starting from 10% from the easier targeting, as social demo, local, and we arrive to 50% when we have specific ad persona custom, of course starting from the premium content. But it's something that seems good. Our CEO decided, not me, I wanted to have a lower CPM because we easy the selling, but it's something that working very well because we have a very good margin on Connected TV and the client. Again, it's quite strange because we have a few clients that say, no, you are too expensive. And there are clients that maybe doesn't invest on digital platform, that we are most cheaper, but invest a lot of money on Connected TV. So once they decide this is the content, this is the platform, this is the broadcaster, it doesn't matter the price. Absolutely. Also with the targeting, we arrive, if you make a simple sum starting from 50 with the increase, we arrive also 65, 70%. Of course, not a huge number of clients, but we are investing on the plan, on the target, for the premium content, and it seems that they have good results because we increase the revenue on a monthly basis.
Interesting. I picked this up with you actually a little bit, Alex. I can imagine that as a regional media group of a reasonable size, you have the ability to move advertisers or help move them if they're willing to go from platform to platform and from, not only, I guess, from platform to platform and device to device according to what they and you think best suits their needs.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's the thing that we're really exploring with it. We're pushing the whole idea of bundles because, apart from regular digital advertising, programmatic digital, from addressable TV, but also linear TV, either some print as well. The thing is that the main idea of what they are trying to achieve is either reach or performance. So we're trying to basically get the best out of both worlds, and it really depends on the client. So that's basically the whole idea, that we're trying to also move them not just in one specific market, but according among to other markets as well. So we have regional clients that are basically either utilizing our addressable advertising on all the markets that we cover at the moment are like pushing us as well to open for the others also. So, and then we also have clients which are regionally, just like we're looking at our region, but for a specific market because their operations are totally different. So it really depends on a type of a client. So those are the biggest things that we are like taking into consideration and moving forward with it. Yeah.
When it comes to linear TV, there's basically one type of advertising, well, two maybe if you count sponsorship. But when you move into digital advertising, it's not cut and dry because there's so many different formats and places where you can put the commercials.
Exactly, and that's what I want to emphasize what Francesco previously said, and that is the education of the market. That is the most important thing because like the things are changing so fast that you really need to go hand in hand with what are the things, not just what are happening all around, but what are happening locally in the market. And those things like you anticipate that you might do it like in a year or two, but no, it's an everlasting process, especially with new clients, either big ones or small ones, or same thing what Francesco also said, like we have clients who are like, we just want to go on TV, like they don't want to spread out their budgets, etc. But these are things that like, that's why like we're here as well, in order to show them other things, and that's why we're trying to like develop further products that maybe later we'll catch on about the sports mode that we're like developing and stuff. So those are things we're trying to like explore things and to move forward in order for them to have more opportunities.
Julian, Vido is also selling advertising, I think, within your various channels you have available. Do you sell it, if you like, in one block? You're not making a difference between different manufacturers' devices, are you? Presumably it's just like all TVs in a particular country will have the opportunity, shall we say, to see certain sets of advertising.
Yeah, we've got the ability to split out the display advertising by manufacturer. And where we've done that in some countries where we've helped a specific manufacturer to get a message out to their consumers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or to advertise a specific product. So
buy my new set, or press this button to do your software update, or
no. More like if you have a Hisense TV, you might be interested in a Hisense soundbar.
Okay, that makes sense.
If there are devices in that country that are not Hisense branded, then it makes sense for us not to send that message to everybody.
Yeah.
Because essentially what happens at that point is that the Hisense soundbar advert becomes non-endemic, right? It's not related to your purchase because you didn't buy a Hisense TV, you bought a different brand of TV. So now it's just a random.
Like those adverts you might get on linear TV.
Right, but this is a very funny thing because the device manufacturers, in some cases, I've heard stories of some of them getting very kind of precious about this in a way that maybe they shouldn't be, because you don't get precious about the fact that the hardware has run adverts for other electronics brands in TV breaks on right, or on other services, because those ads have always been run on your device. So when you can control the advertising, it does make sense to have some.
Have you, I wonder, sold it so well to the Vido platform as a whole that they kind of regard it as theirs?
Well, I think that because these placements are new, and Vido have only been bringing them to market in the last few months, there is potentially the realization that some of the electronics guys think that these placements are theirs, but they're Vido operating system, they're Vido branded, and this display place, as I say, really should be one that stays as native as possible to the experience, and should be close for the consumer to be able to say, hey, okay, I haven't heard of this show, let's investigate further and get straight taken into one of your apps and watch that show. Right?
That makes sense. I'm told we are out of time, so thank you very much for participating in the session this afternoon. Francesco, Alexa, Julian and Oliver, thank you all very much indeed.